Noitel. Okay, so a new simon. Simon, he called it test shin, which is we say. Yeah, really interesting. Yeah. Okay. So let's say simon 309. Okay. Till Says the Machaba. Noitel Odames Benoi. A person is allowed to lift his child for Evan Biyoda, and the child is holding a stone, which is Muktzeh, and it's not considered as if the father, the parent, is holding the child. But that is only if the child has gaguin, yearnings, that he's sort of yearning for the father, he was clinging to the father. Allah. That if he doesn't take it, he doesn't hold this Evan, he'll get sick. But otherwise there's no heta. And if for you to hold a child who is carrying a Muktzeh item is therefore not allowed unless the child has gaguin, he's got these yearnings, he'll get ill if he doesn't hold on to this thing. And even if the child has gaguin, he has these yearnings, he will be very, very upset if he doesn't hold it. That's only we only allow it with regard to an Evan. In dinar b'yodai, but if the child is holding some money, then we don't allow the father, the parent, to hold the child who's holding the money. Even if forget he's holding him, even if the child is walking, and in the other hand the child is holding some money, also that we don't allow. Why? Because maybe the child, this young child, will drop the $20 bill or the £20 note, and the father will be tempted to pick it up. That others say no, that it's only also when you're to hold the child when the money's in the child's hands. If you're walking with your child and you've got it in one hand, he's holding your hand, and the other hand he's holding some money, that we're not worried about. The only problem would be if you're mamish holding the child properly, then it would be a concern. Okay, let's see the Mishnah Berurah. Sif Cotton Aleph. So the Mechaber says that you're allowed to hold your child who is holding an Evan, so long as the child has gaguin. Now this only is allowed in a chotzer, the ein bo ele mishum isa tiltul, that there is no, the issue is Muktzeh one. Because it will cause distress for the child. But to hold your child in Rishus Rabim, also mishum issa hitzah, that would certainly be problematic because of the issa of hitzah, of carrying. Because it's as if you're carrying the Evan directly. If you look at footnote number 1, he says regarding carrying the child, if the child can walk, we apply the principle of chai noises atzmo, that a living creature sort of carries himself, and carrying a person who can walk is only also midrabanan. Okay, gaguin olav sifkot and base ulakachle also tilted shalobi yadayim b'makom sakonas chayli, and therefore this is considered sakonas chayli. The child will get very ill if he's so distressed if you don't he doesn't carry this Evan. So then just say, so just throw the Evan miyodei kamesha kos v'sif gimel the sorach lena Evan memea kalkala. No, because the child will cry. He'll get very distressed. And if the Evan falls from the child's hands, you can't just bend down and pick up the Evan and put it into the child's hands, because then you're actively touching Muktzeh. You just lower the child down, and then the child himself will then pick up the Evan. But you can't directly touch the Evan. Okay, Sivkot and Gimel. In other words, if he hasn't got gaguin, then you can't do it. The only heta to hold the child who is carrying muktzah is when he's got distress. Because without that, then you've got it's as if you're carrying the muktzah item, and that's not allowed. Okay, so the whole heter is dafka with an even because of the distress of the child. But if the child is carrying some money or something like that, then it's not allowed because we're worried that the kid will drop the money and the father will pick it up. And it turns out that you are actually going to be picking up the money and you're touching, you're moving the muktzah directly. And even that we don't allow, even if the son might get sick. It's not life-threatening. It's just he's a bit distressed. So we don't allow you to actually pick up the money in that situation. And if that's if you're holding the child and the child is holding the dinner. But if you're just walking with the child, then we saw two opinions whether or not that's allowed. Sivkot and Hey, im dinar biyadai. But the second opinion was that if you're just walking and the child, holding the kid in one hand and in the other hand the kid's holding some money, that we're not worried about it. Rotzaloma says the Mishnah Berurah, "Da'oz yuchlu litzos v'loima techashem shetir b'shvil hatineg l'sha'anu sha'adina l'sa'enu." Sorry, just the chashem shetir b'shvil hatineg l'sa'enu b'sha'adina b'yodei after meila metalza gam adina kachmut z'lises adina atzma b'yodei achashenofel v'lina b'aliyad hatineg. And he might sort of rationalize and say that I'm allowed to pick up the money directly and just put it into the hands of the child. That's the concern. Okay, so that's that. Peseda. Let's go weiter. Sif cotton, sif base. Kalkalot shows a nekuva stuma ba'even. You've got a basket and there was a hole in the basket and you plug the hole by putting an even there. Mutala taltala. Even though the even is muktzah, you're allowed to carry the basket in this way, because this even has become like a part of the wool of the basket. And so to a pumpkin. You sort of put an even into the empty pumpkin to weigh it down. That you can now fill water in the pumpkin. So long as the even is tied down properly, it won't fall out. Then you're allowed to fill it up with water. Because again, it's got a part. It's considered a part of the delas. Because it's sort of fixed in and it's there as a weight, and therefore it's like a base of this pumpkin. But if it's not tied down properly, then osa. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Nase kadafno. It's firmly attached to the basket. But if the stone is not firmly attached to the basket, then we don't allow you to carry the basket. A dried pumpkin, which is hollow, that you use it as a jug. You add water to it. And when you sort of fill up water, it's so light, the pumpkin, that you need something to weigh it down, so you tie a stone to it. But if it's not tied, then osa because the delas itself becomes muktzeh, because it's carrying an even, which is muktzeh. So the only heter would be when the even is firmly attached to the pumpkin, then it's considered part of the wool and is not carrying a dover muktzeh. Okay, Gimel, let's do one more. Says the Mechaber, Kalkala Meleh Peiros for Even B'Soicha. Now this you can have, imagine like a fruit basket, and you've got apples and oranges and bananas, and you've also got a muktzeh item in the fruit basket. Says the Mechaber, Imheim Peiros Rutuvim Kagoin Te'enev Anovim. If they're fruit which are moist, so then you can take the basket as is, even though it's got a muktzeh item in it, because Shem Yana Peres Mitoicha Yipostu, that if you were to spill out these fruits, strawberries, dates, very soft fruits, they'll get ruined. But if they're fruit which are not going to get ruined, for example, harder fruits, mangoes and bananas and things like that, then there's no problem to just spill them out. And the even will fall with them. And then when you put them back in the basket, just put the fruit back in and don't put the even, don't put the muktzeh item back in. That's only true if you don't need the pears or the kalkula. If you need the basket for something else, then then it's l'tzarech mekayma, and therefore it's you're allowed to carry it as is. Okay, says the Mishnah Berurah, Tess, af sheyesh even b'soicha, denasis hakalkula bosses is v'heta. Because in that situation, you've got a fruit basket which has got heta and osa. You got heta, the fruit, and you got osa, you got the even. For heta choshev yoisa, and we always need the heta to be more worthy, more valuable. Or bottle or issa lagaba, and therefore the issa is bottle relative to it. Vavikilu ein bos is rak leheta, and therefore it's as if this fruit basket or this tray, this bowl, is there is a bossis just for heta. Even though inevitably you're going to be carrying the stone as well, you're allowed to carry the basket in this way and to get to your destination. And you don't need to sort of pick out the fruit from the basket. Because we're talking about soft fruits and they might fall to the ground. But if the fruit are in little baskets within the bigger basket, then then you can take them out. But if the fruit are hard, then we said you just spill them out, and it's much easier to deal with it that way. Since there is a way to deal with it without touching the muktzeh item, Chazal will not makel for you to carry the basket in this way, and therefore you should tilt it out and then just take back the fruit which is mutter. Even though there is the mice, it is a bosses the dava also of mutter, but if it's hard fruit, that you've got an eitzah, and you should use the eitzah therefore. And if similarly, if you can tilt out the even and just spill that out, you should do that. Okay, yena'arim, so you spill out the hard fruit. And then you just pick up the fruit and you put them back in the basket and you bring it to the table. But when you spill it out, don't let it spill too far, because then you'll have other problems. If you've got the fruit spilled all over the floor, then to put them back into the basket, if they're scattered quite widely, says the Mishnah Berurah, it's a problem of uvda d'chol. It's like a weekday activity.
What's more uvda d'chol?
If it's spilled, it's more like a bit more work, like. Yeah. Okay. Lamokam kalkala. What was that going on? Mokam kalkala. Yud yes, at the end. If you need the actual place of the basket, then metaltel kamushihi, says the Mishnah Berurah, Yud Beis l'mokam kalkala to ozi yefshanai, because there you can't spill it out. To shema yipol even l'mokam shetzorich elov lakach yochel dit l'kamushihi imo even l'tartla ad mokam sheyitzav yinais hasham yanichem kamushihi. Okay, beseder. All right, we'll leave it there.